Hello, amazing humans. I'm thrilled to announce the Journey to Wellness Scavenger Hunt on our podcast. Over the next 3 episodes, I'll subtly be dropping a special clue related to either holistic nutrition, emotionally focused therapy, or herbalism. Your mission is to identify these 3 clues and submit them to amber@ambermccrae.com. That's also listed in the description of the episode. And here's the exciting part. If you gather all the clues correctly, you stand a chance to win a $10 digital gift card and a shout out across all my social media platforms and communities. So tune in, engage, and embark on the wellness journey with us. I can't wait to see your entries. Good luck. So today's hint is, it's what everything grows from and delves deep beneath the surface. It's not just about what we see above ground in our lives. It's about those deeper, underlying causes, the bedrock of our emotions, fears, and health. This word is the key to understanding and resolving our core issues.
Hey everyone, Hunter from the Everything is Connected podcast here.
Heather from Hot Mass Espresso.
And Amber from Connection Over Perfection.
You know, in this world of endless chatter, finding genuine conversations can be a challenge.
That being said, we introduced Podcast Connection Network, a space where we lay it all out, unfiltered.
Dive in with us. It's about authentic connections and conversations that truly matter.
To learn more about the network and each of our podcasts, click the link in the description below. The Podcast Connection Network. Never going to give you up, never going to let you down.
The content provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The intention of the host and guests is to spread love and awareness. Always seek the advice of your physician or trusted healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard in this podcast. Welcome back to Connection Over Perfection, the sanctuary where we flip off those sky-high, unrealistic standards and dive headfirst into authentic, raw wellness. I am your host, therapeutic nutritionist Amber McCrae, here to guide you through the thickets of our minds and emotions, where we get to the root of all of it, our deepest emotions, fears, pains, and traumas. It's all about understanding and healing from the ground up, not just slapping a Band-Aid on them. So cozy up with your favorite brew and let's embark on a journey to unearth the roots of true wellness. We're about to dig deep into real talk where mental fitness and heartfelt connections make us perfectly imperfect. Okay, amazing humans, welcome back to another episode of our podcast, Connection Over Perfection. Today's episode is a special one, and I can't wait to introduce to you our wonderful guest, Miss Madeline. Let me start by sharing that Madeline and I found each other on TikTok, and it's been a beautiful journey from there. And thank you again, Hunter. This is like the 5th person that I've had on the podcast that he's introduced me to. So he's amazing. We all love Hunter. And she's not just a guest today. She's a dear friend, an artist with a heart as vast as the ocean, a guiding light for those on their healing journey. Madeline is not only an integral part of our community, but has also joined forces with us to create a safe and nurturing space. Together, we've embarked on a journey to support and uplift those who need it the most. Madeline has already begun pouring her heart and wisdom into our community by being willing to head up our first book study on the Warrior Goddess training for the incredible women in our circle. Madeline's story is one of resilience, strength, and self-discovery. She's faced unimaginable challenges, including surviving abusive relationships and enduring an extremely traumatic childhood. But here's the thing about Madeline. She's a fighter. She's taken those first steps towards healing, and she's teaching us all about learning to be kinder to ourselves through her own journey. Madeline is more than just inspiring. She's funny, she's smart, she's absolutely beautiful inside out, and she's a cherished member of our community, and her dedication to helping women rise, find their voice, and reconnect with their inner power is truly remarkable. I feel incredibly blessed that our paths have crossed, and I know you'll feel the same way once you get to know her. So without further ado, let's dive into this conversation with Madeline, where we will explore healing, self-love, and the power of genuine connection. Madeline, thank you for joining us today. You are seen and heard and deeply valued in our tribe, and we are so excited to learn from your wisdom and experiences.
That was one hell of an introduction. I was not expecting that. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. As for those who do know me, I am much better at written word than spoken. I do get a little socially anxious, so but I am so happy to be here, and I'm just so blessed to have met Amber and Hunter and to have been welcomed into this community. It's just been a huge game changer to my healing journey. So I just want to be able to share and grow the community with you guys because it's done such good for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Madeline. We cherish you so much. So, what initially sparked your healing journey? And can you share a bit about that journey's beginning with us?
Sure. So my healing journey started about 3 years ago. I had just gotten out of yet another abusive relationship where I was left completely shattered. I felt like I had lost my complete sense of self, and I didn't understand like why this kept happening. And I feel like people, whenever you leave an abusive relationship ends, people always say, well, it's not your fault, which I agree. But I was thinking to myself, I'm like, but this keeps happening. Like it's happened over and over and over again. So either I'm the most unluckiest person in the world, or like there's something that I'm doing that is attracting these types of energies. And then realizing that, like, okay, so even once you attract that energy, and why do you stay? Like why does it keep ending up in this pattern? So I was like, you know what? Like, I feel like maybe there's something here that like I need to like tweak a little, because I felt like I really had my life together. Like I everything was just, I don't want to say perfect, but like I felt like I was whole. And so I was like, oh, it's just probably like a little tweak. Like, oh, maybe like I just need to like be more stern or like something. Boy, was I wrong. Wrong. So what I thought was really just going to be like a couple therapy sessions, I realized as I started peeling back the layer of the onion of why I felt like it was okay for people to treat me like this, and what I perceived as normal. Like it just like it kept going. And ultimately where I've gotten to now is that I realized that this cycle of abuse started way before I even started dating men. It started in my childhood. And I think that people always think healing is kind of linear. So when I always start to tell my story about my healing journey, I always start with the last trauma that happened that caused me to want to go on this journey. Even though as I go through this, you would think, well, that obviously was something that was very traumatic and she needed to heal from. But I didn't know that it was something that I needed to heal from. You only know what you know. And I went through the past 20 years thinking that if you move on or continue on, that meant that you were healed from it. Or if that situation is no more, that meant that I got past it. I moved on. I let go. But with each trauma that I experienced, it taught me something about myself that I didn't realize each and every little traumatic experience that I had or took away, I was teaching myself things about myself that I was believing to be true.
First of all, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing with us. And what I think I hear you saying is that you really started this journey because you recognized a cycle that you were in. And while you know that it wasn't your fault that these things were happening to you, you also knew that you only had control over your actions. And so, really taking accountability for what you could change and seeing if there was something that you could tweak, like you said, that would help break this cycle. And so you really started to dive headfirst into that process of learning that. And it kind of was a bigger ocean. It wasn't just this little pond that you thought you were jumping into. And you're like, oh, let me just make a few tweaks. You're like, oh, okay, we're in a whole vast ocean now. And there's all this work. And like you said, correct me if I'm wrong, that you thought you were just looking back at the last relationship or the last piece of trauma, but in learning everything, it stems, the root of it is so much deeper and goes back to your childhood. So you're not really just working on the last trauma that you had, but you're working on, you know 25 years of trauma per se. Is that close?
100%.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think it's so valuable that you did mention, and I think it's a really good topic, is that while people are in abusive relationships and they do not deserve that, that there is an aspect that we can take accountability and to remember that we are never stuck. And coming from a very toxic marriage myself prior, you do feel very stuck. And I'm not saying that there aren't women that don't have many options. But if you're in a position where you can make adjustments and you can get help healing, I think I hear you saying that those are options that we do have, and there is some accountability that we can take. And if, correct me if I'm wrong, taking back that power, you have the choice to change what's happening.
100%. And that's so empowering. I find so much empowerment of knowing that I can change and that I can grow and I can evolve. And so if there are parts of me that don't sit well with me, I can evolve and change into whoever it is that I'm meant to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that I hear you saying that. I love that, is that it's empowering knowing that you have the permission, you have the knowledge, and you have the ability to pivot at any moment in your life. And that if you don't like a road that you're going down, you can always take another road. And people really have this black or white mentality where if they go down one road, they have to stay on that road. And I think I hear you saying that, like, hey, you don't have to stay on that road. At any moment, you could take an alley, you could take another road. You have the power within you to control where you are going, and you can change that at any time whenever you want.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that people don't question themselves enough. And some
Mm.
people would say that I, overthink or question myself too much. And I do think that sometimes I do. But I have found on this healing journey that I have to question myself. If I'm in a situation and something doesn't feel right, I have to ask myself, is this me projecting unhealed trauma or my experiences, or is this me feeling uncomfortable because I don't know what emotion I am feeling? Or is it true? Is this really an unsafe situation, or is this person, throwing the red flags? I feel like I have to ask myself that because it's a toss up. Honestly, it's a toss up of, it could be a not even 50-50. I think sometimes it's me And that's okay. That's okay if the problem is me. Because guess what? I'm fixing me. I'm on this journey to fix me. So if something comes up and I realize, ooh, like I think the problem is me, that's okay. That just means that I now have an added direction of what I need to heal. I use those moments to kind of guide me as to what wounds I need to heal first, or what wounds come up more prevalent, so that I can kind of prioritize things. Because when you've lived and experienced a whole lifetime of trauma, there is a lot of fucking wounds to heal, you know? Like, so you have to prioritize. Like, and ultimately, I feel like I don't even decide what pace I heal at. I feel like this journey, this journey has a mind of its own. I am just on for the ride. And I've learned that, like, the quicker I let go and just let the river take me down, taking me down the lazy river, like, it's going to determine, how the length of time it takes to heal certain wounds, to find certain wounds. Like, it's wild. At the pace in which I heal, I think that I have control to stop the healing, but I don't want to do that, right? Like, I want to continue on the journey. So yeah.
And I think I hear you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that this healing journey has a mind of its own, like you said. And we have control of whether we move forward or we stop, but we don't have control of where it's going or how fast it's going.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I love that. Also, you said something else that really sparked is that just this overall sense that you're talking about self-awareness. And when you're talking about questioning, right? Questioning ourselves, and that it's okay that we fuck up. We're going to fuck up. And like you said, we could be the problem in the situation. And being able to take that step back and saying, hey, like you said, asking questions. Hey, first of all, is it me? Is this something that I need to work on? Am I triggered? Is this a wound that I need to work on? Is this the other person? And those questions I think are invaluable. They are detrimental to our healing journey and being able to become more self-aware. I think those questions are necessary. And I think that it's so beautiful and honorable to be able to ask ourselves those questions and own what is ours and to release what isn't. And really, in this healing journey, I've learned for me that almost 100% of the time it's me, because I am the only one. My triggers are mine. And while it's 10% what happens to me, it's 90% how I react or respond to it. And for me, everything that goes on, I filter through my own experiences. And so being able to say, you know what? Because if I get upset or I get triggered, I have to recognize, is this an expectation I have? Is this a boundary that's crossed? Did I cross that boundary? Did I communicate clearly? And I'm not saying that I think that too much of any good thing can be detrimental, right? So if we take on everything and we're like, the other person has zero responsibility, I'm not really saying that, because they have a responsibility in how they react or respond, or whether they, choose to hear what we're saying or validate all of these things. But ultimately, we only have control over ourselves. And so in situations, we either have, okay, is it our perspective or is it our actions? Right? And so we have to really process those. And so I think that question, asking ourselves lots of questions, is a huge sign of growth and healing. And I think questions on this journey In general, when you start questioning things, right? When you start questioning everything, I think your mind is able to expand. And you were talking about, creating these pathways. We have these neural pathways, right? That they've been on this loop for so long. And if you begin to question and seek other perspectives, you begin to be able to make new neural pathways and create new thought processes.
Mhm. So that is exactly what I've been working on the last 3 years, and it has been such a slow process. But now that I feel like it's getting faster and faster. It's almost like the at first it's challenging, right? Because you have a thought and it's just like a normal thought. You don't realize that this is that dissonance, that cognitive dissonance, or a thought that you need to question, right? So you're going through all the thoughts in your brain and you are picking out and having to figure out what thoughts about yourself and the world around you is good to keep, and what thoughts about yourself and the world around you do you need to question. And then in that questioning, work through and say, okay, does this serve me? And having an understanding of, okay, in a point of time, that this thought that you discovered did probably serve you, and you had to fill in the gaps, or an experience happened that made you think this, and then was reinforced over and over and over again. And I think for me, questioning everything has been vital, because I can look back and see that I always just accepted what was told to me, because I was never really allowed to question, well, why are things this way? A little bit about my childhood and how I was raised. And I hope that this sheds some light and maybe helps explain kind of how patterns of abuse continue, and why it makes it so tricky to heal. So, growing up, my mother was mentally ill. She struggled my whole entire life with an undiagnosed mental illness. And when my parents got separated and ultimately divorced when I was around 13, for the first time in my life, I was left with my three older sisters to have to manage taking care of my mom. And it was a huge shock for me, because so much of my childhood I felt like my dad and my sisters really tried to protect me to the best of their ability and shield me from her and her mental illness. And so once my dad left, and it significantly worsened, it was also super prevalent, right? Because now I am alone with this person who is experiencing all of these emotions and ups and downs and mood swings, and I didn't know how to process any of it, and I there was no space to process any type of emotion or thoughts, because it was chaos, everything was chaos. It was this constant, like, life or death. If you make a mistake, I'm going to kill myself type of like mentality. It was like you were in fight or flight mode 100% of the time. And it was like you never knew when the egg would drop. And it was just this constant heightened experience. But that was like the reality in which I lived in. So, and it was super tricky, right? Because it's still kind of a taboo topic. People don't really validate or acknowledge the abuse and neglect that children feel or get, like, from their parents, if it's a mental illness, right? So there is always this understanding of well, Madeline, you know that she doesn't mean it. Like, she can't help it. She's mentally ill, and like, you know that she loves you. And so I accepted that to be true because everybody around me kept reinforcing, oh, well, like, you know that she can't help it, but she loves you. She doesn't mean to. So, so that mentality, I don't think people give and say advice in the moment to help you get through the moment. But ultimately, that mentality of, oh, like, this person who is abusing me loves me. So then that's how ultimately I figured out why I kept ending up in abusive relationships, right? Because I thought, if I could justify why a man was hitting me or why a man was mistreating me, if there was a reason, if there was a trauma or an explanation behind it, then that made it okay, right? Because they still love me. And ultimately, it's sad. It's super sad. And it's still, I still haven't really gotten through the healing portion of trying to figure out where is there space to have compassion and empathy for my mom, who she didn't have this opportunity like I do to get the help that she needed. And to, like, it makes me so sad for her that she didn't have safe people in her life to allow her to heal, and that she didn't get this that I have. But also at the same time, understanding that I can have that compassion and empathy for her. But there is also a little girl who was very, very scared, and who wanted nothing more than for her mom to love her and to want her, and who spent her whole life wondering, like, why was I not enough? Ultimately, my mom ended up taking her life, and that was a whole traumatic experience. And I thought that by me healing from my mom's suicide, that was all that meant, was like that, like, okay, I got done grieving and I am back to work, like, back, like, moving on with my life, my moving on to the next phase of my life. That's how healing was modeled to me, and that's how I understood healing to be.
First of all, I just want to say that we see you, and we really appreciate you taking the time and energy and just being vulnerable and sharing all of that with us. And I think I hear you saying that really you questioning everything has allowed you to take a look at your life and really understand your patterns and your cycles and your thought processes, and going back and looking at your childhood and experiencing so much as a little girl and not getting the validation of what was going on for you, and just being told that this is the way it is, and that, like you said, that this, she loves you and she doesn't have control. And so you took that on as your identity, as part of who Madeline is, and to really not trust what you were feeling, because you were feeling so many different things: pain and disconnect and sadness and fear. And everybody around you who was supposed to be safe for you said you are not supposed to feel that way, and very much invalidated what you were feeling. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, this gave you a sense: don't trust what I'm feeling. I need to trust what everybody's telling me.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to say that adapted into you learn that and then you never question it again. So it's like,
Right.
I was in autopilot, just doing, I was becoming whatever it was that everybody around me was saying that I was.
Right. And really that disconnect from self.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I hear you saying, and just from, getting to know you, is that that's part of your journey. Like you were talking about a little bit ago, is like, what feels good to me? What resonates with me? And really being able to take a step back and learn what feels right for you, and beginning to ask. That's where those questions come in, is because you're getting to know yourself and what feels good, what doesn't feel good to you, instead of just taking on what everybody else has always told you. And I think I hear you saying that that's one reason these questions have been so pivotal, is because they've really been a roadmap to figure out who Madeline is.
Mm. Yes, 100%. And I mean, it was so scary. I mean, to for the first time in, like, 20 years, start creating connections with people where they actually, like, they wouldn't tell me what to do or what to think, right? Like, they were very adamant about, giving space to allow people to feel whatever it was that they needed to feel, right? I was so used to everybody who came into my life being like, oh, I want to fix Madeline, I want to fix Madeline. And it just continued the cycle of just Madeline doing and being whatever it was that the person in front of her said that she was. And honestly, it felt really shitty.
With that, can I ask you something? So, this feeling of, and everybody coming at you with, we need to fix Madeline. We need to fix, there's something to fix. Did this give you a sense that something was wrong with you, instead of just loving where you were and what you were experiencing?
100%. 100%. And this is still something that, like, I really struggle with because, I've been in a lot of different places on this journey, and I've had a lot of different struggles. And so it always kind of gets me when I feel like I'm in present day, like, doing okay, that people look at me and still feel the need to fix me. I'm like, oh no, like, is my, like, brokenness showing? Like, shit, like, what is it?
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
like, I'm like, I don't, is it a perception that people perceive me? Like, what is it that everybody's seeing so clearly that, like, apparently is broken in me that I need to fix? Like, and if you could just tell me, then that would be great, because I'll go ahead and fix it.
Right. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that that's why also those questions come into play, is that, is this something about me, or is this something about them? Is this an expectation they have of them, or is this something that I really need to work on? And so I think those questions come into play there. Is that how you feel?
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. And also, I think that it's important to be able to have safe connections where you can truly, like, bounce ideas off of, like, for me at least, I sometimes just need people to listen, because I'm unraveling all these thoughts, like, inside my head, and I am trying to make sense of everything, right? And figure out all of the mixture. And so I think it can be very dangerous if you are in a connection with someone who doesn't have, like, the best interest in you, because so many times I found myself just believing what an abuser, like, it's so okay, it's very easy for people, if they know me and know how I question everything and how I am uncertain sometimes if I'm right or wrong. It's very easy for someone to take that and use it against me and to make me believe something that ultimately isn't true.
So I think I hear you saying that while you are on this journey of finding out who you are, you're still working very hard to build boundaries and connection to yourself. And so it's really important for you to have safe people that can help you unravel and process things that do not take advantage of you. Because while we are all on this healing journey, we have very raw spots and very delicate times in our life where we are very fragile and raw. And if we don't have safe people and safe connections where we can go to, it can be very dangerous. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, 100%.
And I think that that's so important to, to highlight, because that's where also that self-awareness comes in, and being able to say, right now I'm in one of those raw spots, and I recognize that, and I need to find people who are safe so that I can make sure to protect myself in these moments, because I know that I'm very malleable and I can be easily swayed because of the delicate position I'm in. And I think that that's so huge to highlight. Off of this, we've had lots of conversations of just the struggle with, abuse and childhood trauma, and what that does to you and how that affects, and really some oftentimes not wanting to be here. And I think that that's a topic that we don't talk about very often. It's very scary for a lot of people, but it's very, very common and very normal and natural. Can you talk about how you work through those feelings on a daily basis?
Sure. So I definitely struggle with depression, and there are days where I just let it completely wash over me. And there are days that I can't get out of bed. There will be like a week and a half that will go by where I can't. I just the thought of showering is it feels like a marathon, and I just it's like life. Like the air is heavier. Like I just don't want to be here anymore. And those feelings were something that I felt my whole life. So as I started to think back of when was the first time I felt this? Like I don't want to be here. And what did that look like? And I have this picture of myself as a maybe like a 8-year-old girl playing with her Barbies, and my mom just screaming and yelling and arguing with my sisters, and I can remember being that 8-year-old girl with her little Barbies, trying to sneak around the fight to just go outside and go somewhere else. I just didn't want to be here. I didn't want to be here. I didn't it didn't feel safe. And so then all throughout my life I would experience when there was, conflict or something going on that didn't sit well with me. It was always just I don't want to be here. But when you're constantly left in that state of I don't want to be here, and you aren't able to get away, then your brain starts thinking I guess the only way out is to not be here on this earth. And so something that has really helped me get through my feelings of not wanting to be here, even though it's still heavy, it's a heavy emotion, but I think to myself, maybe here, when I'm feeling this way of I don't want to be here, maybe that's my body, my mind telling myself I don't want to be here in this point of wherever, this point of time, wherever I'm at in my life, right? Or I it's become more or less as kind of my alarm in my body of if I get that feeling of like I don't want to be here anymore, that often tells me that there's a situation in my life that's triggering that, right? And it helps me pinpoint like something that I need to maybe like address.
That's so huge, Madeline. And I just want to say that that's really, really big. And I just kind of want to go back and reiterate that just to make sure that I am understanding you correctly. And also for the listeners, because I think that this could be really huge for a lot of people who struggle with not wanting to be here. What I think I hear you saying is that you recognize from a very young age that when you're in a situation that is scary and uncomfortable and you can't physically escape that your mind is like, hey, we need to try to protect ourselves. And the only way that it seems that we're able to do that is to not be here on this earth anymore. And so you found that in situations where you feel like you can't physically escape, that your mind goes there. And so now on your healing journey, it is more of a signal, you said, to recognize something bigger is going on. Something's going on. My body's telling me that I don't feel safe, that there's something going on that I need to look at and address. And so instead of so you're using this
Mm-hmm.
as part of a navigational tool on your healing journey instead of looking at it as something very negative, even though it is still very tough and still very heavy, and you still are working through that. You're able to have a different perspective and say, you know what, I feel this,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on?
Yeah, 100%. And I think one major kind of like aha moment was when I feel that, well, I'm not a little girl anymore. I can remove myself from situations. I I'm not this 8-year-old girl or even 16-year-old girl who's stuck in this toxic, abusive home anymore. I'm an adult and I have the ability to choose who is in my life and who's not, and what uh like what I have choice. I'm in control. I'm not this little girl anymore who is just kind of like along for the ride. No ma'am, I'm the captain of my ship, you know? Like, and I feel like so many times when you grow up in childhood
Yeah, I
abuse,
love that.
you like forget like, oh wait, like this is it's different this time because you have the power to change it, right? I mean, when you go through childhood abuse, there's this sense of helplessness, hopelessness, because you have to kind of depend on the adults around you to do something. And if all of the adults around you see it and don't do anything about it, then it makes you think like either A, it's okay, or B, like maybe they don't think it's okay, but like it's it's acceptable treatment for me, or so then you think, oh, maybe there's something wrong with me that like people, I don't know, so
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because I think that that's really huge. And kind of what you had talked about before is that you recognize, okay, this is how I'm feeling. There's a situation that's going on and I feel really scared and I feel like I don't have another option and I feel trapped and I can't escape. But you're reminding yourself, hey, I'm not that little girl. I see you. I see that you're scared. I see that you feel trapped, but we have options now. And so really recognizing what's happening for you and then reminding yourself that you do have options. And so I think that those are super huge tools. And in talking about tools, could you tell us a few tools that have really helped you on your healing journey so far? I mean, those were big ones. Do you have any other ones?
yeah, I don't know if it's really a tool, but what I would say is having a community of people to model some of these tools and retraining of thought processes, I guess, and even validation, like that, the whole like learning how to validate someone else's thoughts, that was modeled to me of just like, okay, let me make sure that I'm hearing this person correctly, and then they're just being a space to allow that, right? Because I feel like out in this outside world, like if you try to, even if you just try to validate or ask questions, it's like, oh, people get really defensive, like, oh, like, and so like I feel like you're just kind of like, ugh. Like just being able to have a place where I can have things modeled for me, and then also just feel safe. Like it's safe to ask questions, safe to think through things, and to know that it's okay to be wherever it is in that moment that I need to be. And that right there was a game changer, because the second I realized that I needed to stop fighting whatever it was that I was feeling, or to stop preventing it, and just to allow myself to feel whatever it was that I needed to feel, and to be wherever it was that I needed to be. I could feel it, experience it, and then move past it. But until I felt it, experienced it, my body was just constantly like, okay, like in overdrive, like trying to prevent it, like, and it's like, no, it's easier to just experience it, feel it, so that you can just move past it.
I think that that is a huge tool. And, I'm all about connection and community. So I think that that's an amazing tool. So I think what I hear you saying is that having safe people on this healing journey has been pivotal for you. And for even just the fact of providing space for you to feel whatever it is that you're feeling, and being reminded and watching others not be okay, and that it's okay to not be okay, and that people aren't going to leave, and that you don't have to be or do anything. Also, like you were saying, that it's so important to not make it go away, that we don't have to prevent it, we don't have to fix it. And there's such a peace and such a different energy instead of fighting, because these feelings of fear and anger and guilt, shame, and heaviness and sadness, they're going to come no matter what. And so instead of fighting them, because we can't make them go away and we can't prevent them, and so instead of exhausting ourselves trying to do something that is impossible, having a space where you can just feel it and be in it, and that is so different, and you have found that that actually has really helped more on your healing journey than trying to tool it away, trying to joy it away, trying to prevent it from happening. And that space of community, really being able to have a space to do that in, like you said, with people who are also doing it, and using the tools and modeling what that looks like, and showing you that there's a safe space that you can do that, that's really been pivotal for you.
Yes, and I think it's super important to be self-aware of your surroundings. And what I love about having the community is that it doesn't fall under one person. And I feel like when you have a community of people, that creates a safe place. It's a sense of, it doesn't fall on one particular person, which, we're all healing from things. And
Amen to that.
yeah, and you've talked a lot about there's a difference between a safe person and a safe place. And I think that I first experienced a safe place and what that looked like. And then from there, I established a safe person. And actually, I feel like I've established, I, maybe like two or three safe people. And what I choose to talk about with that safe person might differ. There might be things that I might feel more compelled to talk about than others. And I just feel like, at least for me on this healing journey, it was so important that, like, I have to be self-aware that I have codependent tendencies, right? So, it's hard to be vulnerable and trust people because so many times I've had my vulnerability used as a, like, I just didn't want to be overbearing or over attached or end up in a situation where I felt like I need this person. I can't live without them. Like, I wanted to, like, come out of this journey to being like this, like, badass warrior queen, like, like, I don't know, like, I didn't want to just, like, end up being like this person who's like another, like, can't stand on their own, like, I needed that independence, that empowerment to know that, like, I can do this. No one needs to save me. Madeline can save herself.
Yeah. I love that you pointed out about the community and really that it takes a village, right? And we need people, and that it doesn't just fall on one person. And on this healing journey, we can sometimes need a lot in those moments. And you recognize that there's moments where you need a lot, and that's okay. But you know that you can't get that from one person. One person can't always be there for you in all of those moments. And that's one of the reasons a community is such a beautiful tool. And also that you have people that offer different things, different tools, different advice, different energies that we need. This is why there's space for all of us. And I might say something that doesn't really resonate, but Hunter or Ryan might say something and it hits home, or Amy might say something that really resonates with you. And so there's just space for everybody, and we need one another for all of our experiences. And this is why all of our stories matter, because it affects and touches people in such different ways. And so that is one reason communities are so beautiful and such a beautiful tool, and to share experiences, to know that you're not alone. So I love that you brought that up. Thank you. Madeline, you have shared so much of your journey with us, and we truly value you. What piece of advice or what would you want to say to somebody who is on their healing journey and really hasn't taken that first step and they're really scared? What would you tell them?
I would tell them, just start with one thing or ask yourself one question. I think this whole thought of starting and embarking on a journey, I can tell you right now, if I knew 3 years ago that this was the journey that I was going to be embarking on, by asking myself, like, oh, like, what is it that I can, like, maybe tweak about myself, I would have never in a million years signed up, bought the plane ticket for this journey. Absolutely not. Because it is terrifying. And honestly, I still don't know where we're going. It's like we're going through a jungle, we're up in the air. Like, I have no idea where this journey is taking me, but I do know that it's going to be so much better than where I've been. And there's so much hope and excitement about what the future can bring. And I have never in my whole entire life been excited about what my future looks like, because I never thought I was going to have a future. I I I always thought that I was going to end up just like my mom, I always thought I'd end up killing myself. And I am so freaking excited to live. And I've never felt that excitement. I've never experienced that. And so if you're struggling and you're just feelings of hopelessness or feeling like things aren't going to get better, I really would encourage you just to start with one thing that you want to change, or maybe like, see, why is it that I do this, and just take it piece by piece by piece, and go at the pace in which it happens. Don't let people make you feel like you have to get to this destination and that there's a time. The journey will, as long as you show up, it will go at the pace in which you need to go, and allow yourself to be wherever it is that you need to be in that moment.
I love that. I love that. So, you guys, if you're out there and you're struggling, we see you and we know that it's not easy. We are also on this journey with you. And take a deep breath and take one baby step at a time. Break it down and really find a community, find a person that can walk alongside you and accept you and accept where you are on your journey, so that you can also be patient with yourself and accept where you are. And you can do that on your own. I just know that having a person by your side helps tremendously to lean on in those moments and to just remind us that we're not alone, because this road can feel so lonely, and like Madeline said, can feel so hopeless. And when you take it one baby step at a time, you begin to create wins. And when you begin to feel good about and proud about the steps that you're taking, that will snowball. So you don't have to see the top of the staircase. You just have to take that very first step. And Madeline is a beautiful example of that. And we absolutely adore you, and we love that you are here too. And like Madeline was saying, hope for the future and being excited for life, which is so hard for so many. And so if you are looking for a community, you can head over to our community, and that information will be in the description. You can connect with Madeline and myself directly in that community. You can ask questions. It's a place of just judgment-free. Come as you are. It's okay to be okay, and it's okay to not be okay. We offer a lot of support and guidance. And again, we do amazing things such as the book that Madeline is about to take us through, the Warrior Goddess training, and we have so many other amazing things coming up. We would love to see you guys there. Madeline, you are amazing and you're so brave. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and coming on here and sharing with us.